The editor of Ukrainian Freedom News, Joseph Lindsley in Ukraine, sent us this piece of music today. Joseph, tell us what this is all about.
Hey, Bob. Good afternoon from Kharkiv. This is the chief rabbi of Ukraine, Moshe Reuben Asman. He's a native of Kyiv, and in the music video of this song, it's a song he composed, and he's walking around the city of Kyiv, looking at some of the damaged buildings, looking at the beautiful parks and the rivers and the traffic going by, even in the wartime. And I think hearing his voice, you can hear the pain, you can hear some of the despair, and then the love he has for his city. And I think it's very powerful because, the Putin's narrative has been, the denazification of Ukraine, and it's, we know that's totally false, but here you see the chief rabbi of Ukraine singing with great sorrow and hope for his beloved city of Kyiv. And when he posted this on Facebook, he called this song a chizuk, which means in Hebrew a strengthening, and it was meant to boost people's spirits. And actually, in the very beginning of the full-scale invasion, so I was back in early March, there was a widely circulated video of the rabbi clutching the Torah as a sign of authority, but almost like, as in those scary days when Kyiv was almost fell into Russian hands. And he spoke very forcefully. The Russians bombed Babin Yar, which is the site where in World War II, the Nazis killed some 33,000 Jewish people in Kyiv, and Russian rockets hit that sacred site. And so you really do see, and I think watching that video, listening to the song of the rabbi, you think of the Ukraine's 2014 revolution, when all different types of people, different religions, different backgrounds came together and said, we want to live in a happy, prosperous democracy. And as a friend just sent me these words saying, every grandmother and taxi driver in Kyiv was supporting that revolution by the conclusion, because of the way the government tried to hit back against the people. And now, especially now, because of Russia's full-scale invasion, even here in where I am in Kharkiv, 30 miles to Russia, before February 24th, people had a lot of connections with Russia. They would cross the border frequently. The first time I came to Kharkiv, January 2022, so right before the full-scale invasion, I leave the train station, and there were people offering taxi rides to Russia. And so there was this, all these connections because of the close border. But now you see here the people in Kharkiv in absolute fierceness because of everything they've gone through. And you look at all the little cities of Donbass, there's so much destruction. People have been sharing the past day photographs of the city of Mavinka. And as a friend of mine who was on leave from Bakhmut, he says Mavinka and so many of these cities, everything looks like Chernobyl. It's just this absolute destruction, like it was a nuclear bomb. It just took a little bit longer. And another friend here who runs a music club in Kharkiv, and was never into the military before this. He posted a picture of one of these absolutely destroyed places, and he only had these words: "Cemetery of pacifism." Because if you choose not to fight, then this is what will happen. Everything will be destroyed and taken from you, and that's what you can really hear in the pain and the hope of the rabbi's song there.
Very powerful. Can we see that video on the website, UkrainianFreedomNews.com?
Yes, I will. As soon as we get off, I will post it on UkrainianFreedomNews.com, and you'll see it on the top left.
Great. And as always, we post our segments with Joseph at WGNRadio.com. I was reading about what may be the fall of Bakhmut, and our Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, says should Russian forces take that eastern city, it would not constitute an operational or strategic setback for the Ukrainian military. Talk a little bit about that, Joseph.
Well, Bakhmut, it's very difficult all around. In fact, today the Kyiv Independent, a news, a sort of an expat English language newspaper with many great Ukrainian journalists, had a headline saying our Ukrainian soldiers in Bakhmut say our troops are not being protected. So, we do see that there's free speech and free press here because it's a very critical story, anonymously quoting soldiers. I've spoken the past few days with a lot of people who've been in Bakhmut, whether they're military or medics or other types of volunteers. And by all accounts, the Russians are throwing bodies at the Ukrainians. And there is an ammunition difficulty. In fact, I was talking with one friend that, I mean, there still is in the Ukrainian military, so many people in the military now, they were IT entrepreneurs and tech geniuses who never were soldiers, and now they are. And so after a year of this now, there's a culture change happening in the military, but there had been this problem of a lot of Soviet-trained, Soviet-minded officers. And so you still see bureaucracy struggles. And I think we've seen a little bit of that even in getting supplies to Bakhmut. By the way, the Ukraine's top general was never in the Soviet army. He's just young enough to never have that. And I think that's a big reason of Ukraine's success here. But Bakhmut is, I mean, for the Russians, they want it to be a propaganda victory because they've been unable to take recently any major city for many months. And so this is, and especially that the mercenary group Wagner is throwing everything they can. And so that's why we see, I think the Russian losses are awful and huge, but there's the Ukrainian losses are quite large. In fact, in this story in the Kyiv Independent, and this is something I've been hearing about for some time, out of, say, one sort of division of 500 soldiers that were there a couple months ago, 150 are surviving. Just imagine that. I mean, that, almost everyone many people would be dead. And so it is, it actually seems that the routes to get out of Bakhmut are pretty much under Russian fire control. There's a city called Chaziv Yar, 10 miles from Bakhmut. That's where a lot of people have been escaping to, and had been sort of a supply place. And I'm talking with people who were there today, and they say that place is becoming like hell right now with Russian artillery strikes. So, and meanwhile, there has been, we've had so many air alarms throughout the country. I mean, it can drive you crazy, but there's been no massive missile attack. Last night, through the night, and this was actually the past couple nights, these Iranian drones, not a whole lot, maybe 15 or so the past couple nights, each night, were coming into central and eastern Ukraine. There were 2 that came south of Kharkiv into little villages. Out of 15 last night, the military says 13 were shot down. And so the Russians have not been doing a lot with their missiles and rockets. I mean, for a while, Kharkiv was getting hit every other day until 2 weeks ago. And so it seems maybe they're resupplying on that front, but it does seem that they're focusing everything they can on Bakhmut. And the one thing to keep in mind is that even if Bakhmut does fall, it is still a sign of, we have to look at it, it still could be a sign of Russian weakness, because the fact, again, that we're talking about Bakhmut, when Russia wanted to take Kyiv in 3 days, shows you that there is weakness. And that's why, that there's more and more momentum to get tanks and better weapons to Ukraine. It's hard to know what has arrived. I think a lot of times it has to be kind of secret. Poland just announced a major deal with South Korea to start building tanks, South Korean tanks in Poland. Obviously, that'll take some time. We are in this, while we all look to Bakhmut, there's a lot of maneuvering behind the scenes, and it is quite difficult to know really what to expect. This week or even today. And it's, this is, I think a lot of people are surprised there have been no major missile strikes for this long at this point. And and we just, I think there's an alarm sounding. And right now, as I talk to you, there's maybe the 4th alarm of today.
I don't know how to do it, Joseph. As I've mentioned many times, if I were you and those alarms were sounding, the last thing I want to do would be talk on the radio. I don't know what I'd do, but I admire your reporting skills under the circumstances, and I hope the situation of no massive missile attack from the Russians will continue.
Yeah, and there's so many alarms that if you were to go into hiding during them, you couldn't exist, you couldn't live anymore. And so, you really what happens when there's an alarm, as there is right now, I start checking all my different, friends and different chat groups, and to see, because people start reporting if there is missile activity, and so at least you can try to get some indication of what to prepare for. And that's sort of, that's a daily way to operate here. But I think, so right now, in this moment, we look toward Bakhmut. We see if reinforcements will arrive soon. And it's, it is absolute hell, and for so many people. But that's where we are at this moment.
I'll let you go, and hopefully you'll have a safe 24 hours until we talk tomorrow at this time. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Bob.
Introducing Ukraine on your social media pages. That's very important that much more people can get more information about the situation here and how everybody can help Ukraine to stay stronger and to save all the world.
Що він сказав?
Well, which side are you on?
На чиїй ти стороні?
Come on now. Oh, which side are you on?
На чиїй ти стороні?